Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Today is day 2 of our 5-day challenge, how to create a mindfulness practice, a sustainable mindfulness practice for your specific needs. I am Sarah. I am a traditional Sui Reiki master teacher, a holistic life coach, and a yoga teacher. I have been practicing for 20 years. I've been teaching for 10, and I value time, and because of that, I like to get right to the point and not waste time with a lot of fluff. And I kind of like to move quickly and efficiently through these sessions and fill them up with really good, powerful, transformational wisdom that you can put into practice like today, because that is what a true spirituality is all about. It's about living it for real each and every day. So let's go ahead and get started. As you log in and you come on live, please comment. When you comment, you have two choices. You could either give StreamYard permission so that I can see your name, or when you comment, just put your name at the bottom. So your comment and then put your name, and then this will allow me to respond to your question by name. Otherwise, to me, my screen, it just says Facebook user. As a reminder, everything is on the units tab. So inside of our group, Women Awakening Together, there is a units tab at the top, and all of the replays, the guide, the workbook that you need is going to be posted there. Your daily homework and action steps is also posted there. The first task at hand is to set your intuition. Thanks for those of you, not your intuition, your intention. Thanks to those of you who have already posted your intention. If you have not, intention is super important. Oftentimes, it's not so much about what we do, but about why we do it. And when you set an intention for this challenge and you say, this is what I want to achieve, it keeps you focused, it keeps you inspired, it keeps you on track. So make sure you're doing that. As you log in, please say hello. And if you're watching the replay, please make sure that you hit replay. When you comment and you like, it really helps me a lot because it helps me to reach more people. So that's in regards to the intention. The other task at hand is to pick an accountability buddy. We started to make progress because everyone went in there and shared a little bit about their lives and themselves. But right now there's a lot of requests and there's not a lot of matches. So I invite you to go back to the accountability buddy post and scroll through the comments and see if you can find someone that you feel you resonate with, and then tag them and say, would you like to be my buddy? And then once you are partnered up, then you just type another comment that says we're set. And this way people who are looking for a partner can see who's available and who's not. And before we dive into today, the last reminder is the workshop on Saturday. So Life Challenge is running Monday through Friday. And on Saturday, I'm doing a 3-hour workshop on how to manifest your heart's desire for real. And it's going to be absolutely amazing. It is only a live event. It will not be recorded and it will not go live on the web. So it's something that you need a private Zoom link for. And it's going to be a small, intimate group. It's only $47. And it really is one of the most affordable opportunities to work with me directly and get some real holistic life coaching in whatever your blocks are, whatever might be holding you back from manifesting your heart's desire. Because the truth of the matter is, your spirit is on this earth to manifest and to heal. You're either manifesting consciously or you're manifesting unconsciously. And a lot of the times, the thing that you think you desire, it's already waiting for you if you just remove the blocks out of the way. So a lot of the times, manifestation workshops focus externally. This time, we're going to focus internally, and not so much about what you want to achieve, but what does that represent for spiritual healing for you. And when you're able to connect with that intention, the world's your oyster. Like, it literally, the universe will just reflect it back at you because you've switched from an external focus to an internal focus. And so it's really a special and amazing workshop. I don't know when I'll be doing it again, but do make sure that you catch it. If for some reason you're not available Saturday, you could always book a free awakening call with me and my team. Lizette actually helps me to do some of these calls, and we can do a little bit of free coaching for you there. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. As a recap, yesterday we talked about sacred space. Hi, Roseanne. Hi, Kim. Thank you so much. And I saw a lot of you post on the Facebook group your homework, your pictures, and saying done. And yes, I did it. So if you're watching live and you got that done, give yourself a high five, put a little emoji below on the comments, and just your emotions. I want to know how that felt. How did it feel to actually go to your little corner and set that spiritual intention that this is going to be the sacred space that you're going to practice in? I love to hear a little bit of feedback on that. As you type that, I'll keep talking. Today we are discussing the functions of the mind, which is literally one of my favorite topics. I remember learning this in yoga teacher training and going, duh, no wonder my mind won't shut up. It has all of these functions. And so we're going to talk a little bit about it today. Tomorrow it's emotions and feelings, and how do you use them wisely, and how do you learn from them. Thursday is going to be what is the right practice for you. We're going to go through the different styles, the different options that you have, and I'll give you some specific tips based on your specific situation. I'll ask some questions and then I'll give you some feedback. It'll be very interactive so that you get personalized guidance onto the right practice for you. And then Friday is, how do you know if you're making progress? Okay, because a lot of the times we practice, and you might feel like we're going nowhere. But there is a specific way to measure progress, and it has nothing to do with how long you can sit in meditation. It has to do with how it affects your life and the changes that you see in yourself and in those around you. So we'll be talking about that, and also the obstacles that might come up in the way, because it's not an easy journey. It is always evolving. It is always changing. And if you know what to expect when the obstacles come up, then you don't get defeated. You don't give up. You know, oh, there's the obstacle. I see. And then with a light heart, you just navigate through it wisely. Okay. So that's going to be Friday. So with all of that said, let's go ahead and get started. We have 5 functions of the mind, and I want you to write this down. So you have your workbook, right? And each day you have a little page where you're going to write your insights. And if you don't, then this is one of the things that I really want you to write down, which is the 4 functions of the mind. The first one is memory, and we're going to discuss each one of them and go into a little bit of detail, but I want to give you the big picture first. The first one's memory. The second is imagination. The third one is understanding. And the fourth one is what I call dysfunction of the mind, or misunderstanding. And we'll talk a little bit about that and why that happens. So starting with the first one. Well, starting with why the mind thinks. Can we start there for a second? So thoughts come from the collective consciousness. Thoughts they're triggered by the forces of nature. So nature has 3 qualities. And I'll go off track a little bit here to just give you a big picture view. As long as you are part of nature, you will be affected by the qualities of nature. And nature has 3 qualities. The first one is tamasic, which is kind of lethargic, slow, a little bit lazy, you could say, sloth, and just heavy energy, heavy foods, winter weather, dark days, that would be tamasic, mud and earth, that would be tamasic energy. Those are just qualities of nature. Then you have ragistic energy, which is movement and change and fire and these things that make us transform and that give us this constant urge to create, to manifest, to change, to do something. That little fire within, there's those people who can never sit still and they have a million projects going on and they can never stop. And those are very registic people. So tamasic energy, couch potato, artistic energy, do, go, 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 go. And then you have sattvic energy, which means that you are not on either end. You are in the middle, in a place of clarity. You have enough energy to see clearly, to get through your day with ease and enthusiasm and joy. You have plenty of energy to do everything that you need to do, but you're not running around like a chicken without a head. And you can rest and you can take time to breathe and take time to take care of yourself and all of this, but you are not just bogged down and tired and not wanting to get off the couch. So there's a happy medium, and in that sattvic place comes clarity. So just by being alive and being part of nature and affected by the elements of earth, fire, water, earth, like we discussed yesterday, you have energy flowing through you, and you're part of this collective, not just a collective human consciousness, but collective earth consciousness, right? This is why we are affected positively when we go on a nature walk and we're near a lake and near the trees, and our mind just automatically comes to a place of calmness because we are one with our surroundings. And if they're peaceful surroundings, then you're going to have a peaceful experience. If you work in a super stressful, high pressure environment where everything is always in fight or flight, then you are going to be affected by that environment. If you work in a space that's light and airy, like here, literally, this is my natural light. I have no lamps here. I have 2 windows in front of me, and it's a very light space, and it's, white walls, and it's just spacious and empty and light. Your system is going to absorb that energy. If on the opposite, you're in a dark place with no ventilation and no light, your system is going to absorb that energy. That affects your frame of mind. That affects your thoughts. And so first we have to understand that our thoughts will be, and our mind will be affected by our environment and by the people we surround ourselves with, and by what we consume. And that includes physical, tea, water, healthy, happy foods, or tamasic, heavy leftovers and alcohol and whatever else. Or it also includes what you consume with your mind. So what you watch on TV, what you read, what you listen to, all of this is going to affect your mind. So first, we have to understand that the mind doesn't do what it does for no reason. It does what it does because it is surrounded by certain people, places, and things, and you are consuming certain foods or certain information that your mind then has to process, because one of the qualities, one of the functions of the mind was understanding. Remember? That's memory. Right? So your mind does what it does because that is what it's designed to do. And so a lot of the times we say, oh, we're going to start a mindfulness practice. I'm going to sit in meditation. And the mind doesn't stop. Well, why doesn't the mind stop? And, then we get frustrated. We think we're doing it wrong. We stop doing it. We think that it's not for us. And it was never about forcing the mind to be quiet. As a matter of fact, it is absolutely impossible to force your mind to be quiet. You can give your mind something to focus on, and you can give your mind, different mantras or counting or breathing techniques or different things to train the mind to stay focused on one object, to stay focused on one specific thing. But I have news for you. A lot of the times I see practitioners use that as an avoidance technique. They meditate, and as long as I have to meditate, then I don't have to think of my problems. And then I inhale, exhale, whatever it is that they're trying to focus on. And they're not really They're avoiding their problems, and they're using their meditation as an escape, and they're forcing the mind to focus on whatever it is that they're trying to focus the mind on, without getting to the root cause of why all their thoughts are freaking spinning in your head in the first place. Okay. And so when I work with students, one of the first things that we do, literally on coaching session one of the first things that we do is we start to look at whatever conflicts are going on in your life that are creating a tug between your mind and your spirit. Because as long as there's inner conflict, the mind is going to continuously try to rationalize, understand, make excuses. Sometimes you'll bicker and argue with somebody in your head, or you'll bicker and argue with your own self. I know, because I've done it. I don't sit here pretending that, this is easy peasy and that I know it all. I sit here in a very real way, understanding what you're going through, and having had a teacher who helped me to understand what the true goal of a spiritual practice was, right? So that's the first thing. You have to watch your environment, the people you work that you interact with, and you have to watch your own inner conflict and really see what you can do in your life to get your soul and your spirit aligned with your, I should say the other way, your choices and your words and your thoughts aligned with your spirit. Because as long as that is in conflict, so I want you to take a second and just think, is there anything in your life right now that you are doing that you don't really want to be doing, but you feel you have to? You have a sense of obligation, you have a sense of responsibility, and you just, you have to do what you have to do because this is what's expected of you. This is what you said you were going to do, blah, 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 blah. Or the opposite. Is there something that you know with all your heart you need to be doing? You need to quit that job. You need to get out of this relationship. You need to, sign up for school or for a course or whatever it is that your heart really, really wants, but you're not doing it. And you're not doing it because of fear. You're not doing it because of money. You're not doing it because your partner might not agree. You're not doing it because of whatever. Anytime that you have a yes to one of those questions, something that you're doing that you don't want to be doing, the mind is going to then create a hell of a lot of thoughts to justify why it has to be done. Or anything that you want to do, but you're not doing, the mind is going to spend a hell of a lot of energy and thoughts arguing why it can't be done and it shouldn't be done. And so that's the root cause of why the mind spins. Every time that you are not fully truthful in everything that you do. When I talk to people, my speech comes across like very direct, very blunt, very down to the point. A lot of the times I'm very specific in what I say, and I explain and over-explain, because truthfulness goes beyond just not lying. Truthfulness comes with clarity. A lot of the times we're very fuzzy with our speech, maybe because we don't want to commit, or we want to be nice, or we want to be liked, or we don't want to tell people what we see because we're afraid they're not going to like us. All of that freaking noise in your head, every time that you don't speak clearly, your mind then has to go into this little spin thing that it does to justify that is automatically going to create thoughts. So you have to understand where the thoughts are coming from. And you have to understand the 4 functions of the mind. So let's jump right into those. The first one we said was memory. That's a very good function, don't you think? It allows you to remember your name, where you live, the mistakes that you've made, so that you don't repeat them again, the lessons that you've learned. Memory allows you to remember who you love and remember, where you come from, and all of these beautiful things. And so every time that a memory comes up, it could be positive or it could be negative. And this is where we can use them wisely, or we can get caught up in them. So if you had traumatic experiences, if you've had struggles, if you've made mistakes, and you're stuck back there, And in your mind, you continuously relive, or you continuously beat yourself up of the mistakes that you made, or you continuously just have regrets and resentments and anger over people, places, and things who maybe have hurt you in the past. That's creating negative thoughts and negative energy in your life. It's a function of your mind to remember. But you could also, by training the mind to observe what's going on and become aware that of the memory that you're processing, decide here and now, this moment, this breath, what you want to do with that memory. Okay, so what do I mean by that? And I'll jump a little bit ahead and tell you what the exercise is going to be on their action step for today. Is you're going to sit in your sacred space for 7 minutes and you're going to observe. And when the thoughts come in, you're going to let them come in, and you're going to classify them into one of these 4 categories. So you're sitting in meditation and all of a sudden a memory from your childhood comes up and you go, oh, that's a memory. And maybe it's a positive memory, or maybe it's a negative memory. I don't want you to judge it as good, bad, or otherwise. I just want you to write down the word memory. And then you let it go. And then, a few minutes later, some other memory comes up. Oh, yesterday I left the, whatever happened. You left the something out in the car. You forgot to bring it in. That's memory. Is that a useful memory? Yeah, probably, because then you'll be looking for the thing and then you forgot where it was because you didn't remember you left it there. That's a useful memory. That's a harmless memory, right? And that's a very functional memory to have. The problem comes when we get caught up in those bad memories and we refuse to let go of the trauma. Now the mind, instead of being your friend and a useful tool to remember, becomes your enemy, and you are not able to live happily now because you're stuck in the memories of the past. And a lot of times people create a hell of a lot of suffering for themselves because they refuse to let go of the negative memories of the past. And, one of the beautiful things about creating a mindfulness practice is that you learn to live in the present moment. And when you learn to live in the present moment, it doesn't mean that you deny the past and that you don't want to go back and revisit it. A lot of psychologists and psychiatrists spend a lot of time rehashing the past, and that's all good, but rehashing is only necessary until rehashing is no longer necessary. I say this all the time to my students because a lot of the times they come and they say, this is why I'm broken, and this is, and my doctor said, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand. And good for you that you see what's going on. What are you doing this week to change that pattern? What are you going to do this month, this year to change that pattern? And we literally make a plan, because at the end of the day, you can remember in a useful way, know where things come from, and use wisdom to change them now and in the future. Or you could sit over there and play victim and get stuck. Listen, if we wanted to play victim, I'll win the cake. I have so much freaking drama and trauma that I've had to work through in order to be here today. And if I were to still be back there, and I've wrote it again and again and again, and I've rehashed it until I made sure that there was nothing left that I needed to say or do or heal. But it's not because I don't have anything to, regret or be upset about in my past. Is because I have enough mastery to realize that it's not helpful to create my sense of identity and value and happiness based on all of that old crap. And so that's one of the functions of the mind, memory. It could be positive, remember where you left your keys, or it could be negative and keep you stuck in the past. It could be positive if you remember where things came from and you make an effort now to change them for the future. It could be negative if you rehash, and just continuously use the mind to relive the trauma without doing anything about it to create something different here and now. Okay, let me let that car go by. I live in a busy street. It's a long story. I'm not going to get distracted with the story of how I ended up on a busy street, but sometimes you'll hear cars, and that's just that. Okay, the second one is imagination. And imagination is the same thing. It could be positive or it could be negative. So positive imagination is what you do when you set your goals and your vision for the year, is when you dream and you decide that you want to transform and become and, just make choices to create certain things that are positive. That's good imagination. Negative imagination is unnecessary worry. And that is, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if I can't pay my bills this month? What if I can't pay my bills next month? What if I can't pay my bills next year? That honestly is like number one human concern, right? How am I gonna, and it's a lot of like survival root chakra fear. And oftentimes, if you look at the numbers, you're probably okay. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching this, because if you're watching this, chances are you have no food, shelter, clothing, at least for today and tonight. Right? And in one way, shape, or form. And yet, a lot of the times, the mind still hooks into that worry. A lot of the times, we worry about other people. We worry about our kids. We worry about our friends. Again, that has nothing to do with, that's misused imagination. What that is that's the energy of fear in your system that needs to be transformed, focused on the future, and translated into imaginary worries that are actually unlikely to happen. And here's the thing, even if they were likely to happen, imagine them again and again and again does not help your case. If anything, it makes it more likely, because what you focus on expands. And so if this is what you're focused on, the imaginary worry of something bad that might happen, then now that's what you're going to create. So now you're sitting in meditation for the 7 minutes that I gave you, and you're going to sit there and you're going to say, okay, and tomorrow I have to do blah, blah, blah. Now you're running away to the future. That's imagination. It could be good imagination, bad imagination. I don't want you to worry about it. I don't want you to judge it. I just want you to write down imagination. Positive or negative, doesn't really matter. Become aware of when the mind runs to the past in memories. Become aware of where the mind runs to the future in imagination. Does that make sense? Can I have a couple of little highs or hellos or emojis if this is resonating with you, while I have just a little tea before I keep going? Okay. The next one is understanding. And that is your mind's capacity to understand life and yourself and knowledge and this conversation right here, right now. The reason that you understand is because you've learned to speak the English language, and we have words that have meaning. And with that understanding, you are able to awaken to a whole new level of consciousness and say, oh, that makes so much sense. Maybe some of these concepts are familiar to you, and it's always good to remember. And maybe sometimes they are new concepts. I remember when these were new concepts for me, and I was just so completely blown away. It's like, oh my God, thank God. So I'm not crazy. These are the functions of the mind. They're here on this earth I'm here on this earth for a reason, and I have this mind that helps me kind of navigate life. And without a properly functioning mind that has, listen, if you don't have a proper memory and you have amnesia, you have a major freaking problem. If your imagination is way out there and you're having visions and imagining things that are not there, you have a major freaking problem. So the fact that you have a properly functioning memory and a properly functioning imagination and a proper capacity to understand this conversation, it's a blessing in and of itself. And so why do you sit in meditation resisting all of this? Why do you judge it as good, as bad, as not good enough, as, I'm failing at this meditation, mindfulness practice thing because I can't get my mind to stop? Who the heck said that the mind is going to stop on command just like that? It has functions to serve as long as you're on this earth. And like we talked at the beginning, it is affected by your environment, the people, places, and things that you interact with. It's affected by what you eat. It's affected by what you consume mentally through the internet and the radio and whatever it is that you listen to. So the first step to creating a successful mindfulness practice is understanding the matrix and why the system does what the system does. And then this way, when you sit down, you can open your heart to what is, and you can stop trying to force it, because you're never going to force your mind to be quiet. All you can really do is observe it, become the witness, detach from it a little bit, and then use your mind for the tool that it's meant to be. And with a mindfulness practice, what you're really doing, and I'm going to get to the last one of the 4 functions, but I'll jump ahead a little bit again. The goal of training your mind is to see clearly. That's the second box on your little workbook here. And so you have to see clearly that the mind is designed to have memories. You have to see clearly how the mind is affected. You have to see clearly what the mind imagines, and you have to detach from it. And then you can use your Budhi, it's called Budhi, and it is your intellect and ability to discern and act wisely with what the mind comprehends. But the mind itself is neutral. The mind has these 4 functions that we're talking about, and it's affected by the 5 senses. So it's constantly distracted by what you see. So it's knowing right now, you see, now my mind makes a connection. I have to absorb the fact that there's beautiful little snow outside, and maybe I have a judgment of snow being pretty. Maybe I have a judgment of snow being like a pain in the butt or whatever, if there's a lot of it, or whatever your feelings are about snow. That's got nothing to do. Your eyes see snow, and then it triggers all of that thought that I just explained. You smell something, and oh, there's chicken burning in the oven. And now your mind makes that connection. Oh, I better go turn it off. Oh my goodness, the house is all smoky. I gotta fix this and that. Something you hear, like I just got distracted by the truck, and that triggered a whole lot of memories about like how I ended up in a busy street, blah, 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 blah. That's going to automatically, something you taste, something you feel, whatever it is, that's just a function of the mind. It's its job to process the world and absorb it through the 5 senses. So to sit here and think that we're just going to go blank, I have no thoughts, when you're constantly surrounded by people who have lots of drama and bicker and complain and energy vampires, we can talk about that some other day, that are constantly affecting your mind. When you're not eating the right things, when you're not consuming the right things through your phone, when there's inner conflict in your system. I'm sorry, but that's just unreasonable. Do you see that? Who understands what I'm saying right now? So first you have to understand how it works, what it affects it, what the functions are. Then you have to take a little bit of a step back and realize that the mind is just that, is a tool, and it will constantly be giving you information. And that in order for the mind to be completely at peace and completely quiet, the first step is to see what's going in and to see clearly how it functions, and to detach yourself from it a little bit so that you can see clearly. And now the mind is no longer driving the car. Your conscious awareness is driving the car. Every thought that comes in, you can put it into one of these 4 categories. Every sensory stimulation that comes in, you can see it for what it is. And you don't let your mind get hooked and run into the spiral spinning thing that the mind does, that it never shuts up, and you're trying to get it to shut up. No, you can't. This is what it's going to do until it doesn't anymore, until your life is so aligned with your spirit and you are in a place of having the right relationships, the right job, the right friendships, the right community supporting you, the right teacher encouraging you, or you're reading the right books that are inspiring and calming, you're watching the right movies. Then your mind will naturally come to a calm place where there is no thoughts. And even then, I sit in meditation, and sometimes I have a busy day ahead, and I have to say to my mind, yes, I know. For this moment, inhale, exhale. And I don't have a lot of conflict and a lot of drama in my life. And I still have to continuously train my mind to come to the present moment. It's a little bit easier than it used to be when I had a lot of conflict in my life. And, I had a corporate stressful job and 2 little kids and a job that didn't serve me. And, all of these things have to be in place for your mind to calm down. But even when those things are in place, then it's still a matter of training. It's still a matter of awareness. And it's still a matter of always staying conscious of what you're thinking, what you're speaking, and what you're doing, so that you could actually make better choices, which leads to true freedom. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But before I go into that, the last function of the mind is misunderstanding. And I call it the dysfunction of the mind, because what happens is a lot of the times we create a hell of a lot of suffering because we literally misunderstand and misperceive. So we see what we want to see and not necessarily what is. And that happens in people, places, relationships, anything in life. It's kind of coded. There's like a, blue color glass in between you and reality. And that blue color glass is your past experiences and memories that are affecting how you perceive reality. So someone might come to you with the best intentions and offer help, let's say. But you have a negative memory of being put down and told that you can't do it by yourself and that you're not good enough and that, I always have to help you because you're stupid or whatever. So now somebody comes with a genuine intention to help and you somehow are hurt and you somehow take it personal and you think in your head that they are actually being condescending and mean and not treating you with respect. And you make that your truth. When it isn't the truth, you're just looking at whatever they're doing from this blue color glass and you don't see what really is. In yoga, what we use as an example is, let's say that you walk into a room and it's dimly lit and there's a pile of like something on the floor that looks like a snake and you freak out and you're like, oh my God, there's a snake, because the light wasn't fully on. Then you turn on the light and it's just a rope. And that literally happened to me the other day. I was at the park hanging out in my hammock this summer, and out of the corner of my eye, I see this thing, and it's literally going like this. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And then I see a little kid pulling a little rope. Okay. And it just made me think of this, because to me, when I saw it from the corner of my eye, that's what I saw. That's not what was there. But that is literally what I saw. And for a second, and I'm weird. I'm not necessarily afraid of snakes. I actually like them. And I just think, anyway, that, some people who might have judgment about that might think that I'm crazy. But trust me, they're just animals like everything else. It's just humans have put all of these negative associations with them. And sometimes they'll be like on the rocks and I'll kind of just sit still and play kind of like statues with them. And I'll just let's see who moves first. And then I get bored and I move on. But they freeze when, if they don't realize that you've seen them, they just kind of freeze. And so then I just sit there and watch them freeze until I move and then they move. Anyway, what was I saying? The snake, misperception. Yes, that's where I was. So you see how the mind just goes off, right? Here's my mind. It had a memory. I was trying to explain a concept so that you would understand the concept of imperception. That triggers a memory of something that I learned in teacher training about the snake and the rope. That then triggers another memory of the experience at the park, which then triggers another thought about how you're going to judge me if I say I like snakes, which then triggers another thought about how the collective consciousness has negative associations with snakes. It's unbelievable, but this is what the mind does, and this is what the mind is designed to do, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. So my invitation for you today is to kind of stop fighting it and start looking at it with curiosity, because trust me, when you begin to look at it with curiosity, like everything that I just did and I just said, That's it. It's gone. It's in the past. I'm not all caught up with it saying, oh, should I have said this? Should I have said that? No, it's done. And then I'm back to the present moment and refocused on what my task at hand right now is, which is to help you to understand what the mind does and how it works. And it would be completely normal for my mind to play these events at the end of the day and kind of see how the day went, because that's just the mind processing what the mind does. But if you could step back and not get caught up in the story and not judge it as good or bad, your mindfulness practice is going to be so much easier for you. Okay, so that's misunderstanding. The snake is a simple example, but a lot of the times we do that with the people around us. We walk into work already expecting a bad day because the boss is this, then the boss that. And, you walk in already misperceiving your day. And guess what? If that's what you're focused on, that's what you're going to create. It's not personal. It's mathematical. It's physical. It's just how energy works. What you focus on expands, right? So misunderstanding and the goal. Okay, so let me recap here. Let me have a cup of tea, get my thoughts together. Comment below with any questions or any aha moments that you might have while I gather where I was going next with my little story. Not my story, my lecture, whatever this is. Yes. Okay. So the goal of the mind is to see clearly, right? And that leads to true freedom, because when you see clearly, you are no longer subject to the negative patterns of the past, and you don't have to repeat them again. And that, my friends, that is the true goal of a spiritual practice and the bottom line of everything that we do. You need a mindfulness practice that's in a sacred space at a sacred time, like we said yesterday, so that you can see your mind and its functions and how what you do on an everyday basis affects your energy and your thoughts. And once you do that, you can see clearly what you're doing. You cannot fix what you cannot see. So if you don't see yourself rehashing the past again and again and again, you cannot stop it. Instead, we hide, we play bingo on the phone or whatever the heck we do. We get ourselves distracted. We do a million other, we have an entire society that functions on disconnecting from the mind and what it does, right? If you don't realize that your worries are in the future and that they are not real yet and that they're probably not even reasonable, then you can't stop it. You just keep worrying and worrying and worrying and worrying and worrying. But the minute that you see clearly through the practice of seeing yourself again and again, then you actually have the freedom, because then you can navigate your life with wisdom. So that's the answer to the third question. Seeing clearly leads to true freedom because it allows us to navigate our lives with wisdom and with clarity. Okay, let me see the comments. You didn't get what Buddhi is. So it's Buddhi, B-U-D as in David, H-I. And that is, how do I translate that? Think of it as like intelligence sometimes, or intellect, or the ability to decide if something is good or bad or otherwise, the ability to have, to like make an educated decision, almost like there's a part of you, there's a mind that thinks. And like I said, it's affected by all of these things, by the gunas, by nature, by the people, places and things. And the senses, the five senses. And then there's a part of you that sees the mind. You are not your mind. If you were your mind, you wouldn't know that you were thinking. But you know that you're thinking. So who's the part of you that sees the thoughts? And that part of you has a couple of different parts. One is just pure consciousness and awareness. And the other one is buddhi, which is that ability to discern right, wrong, conscience. In some religions, we call it like, yes, that's a good translation. I think that's a very good analogy, I guess, or partnership, or a way to explain it. Buddhi, think of it as your conscience. The part of you that knows right from wrong. That's what buddhi is. Does that make sense? And so the mind processes, imagines, or remembers, and all of that. That's your mind. But then there's a part of you behind that that's always observing, that is not your mind. And one of the aspects of that witnessing part is your consciousness and your conscience and your ability to discern right from wrong and good from bad. The problem is oftentimes that has been a little bit polluted by society and preconceived notions and ancestral dysfunctional patterns that have been passed down generation after generation. So oftentimes by the time we get here and we wake up, we honestly don't freaking know. I actually just did today. I sat down and I did a little video on what does awakening feel like. And later today, I will put a post in there. If you want to comment on it, then we'll send you the video. I have someone who's helping me with that. So it's amazing, because the minute that you awaken and you realize you're not your body and you're not your mind, half your battle is won. Because from that place of consciousness, of being aware, and conscience of knowing right from wrong, you can free yourself from all of these emotional and dysfunctional patterns that we have inherited from the collective consciousness and our ancestors. And just for the record, that is why this is the most precious thing that you can do for real, people, to help the freaking world out there, because the world has gone bananas. They've gone crazy. They've lost perspective. It is beyond even, don't even get me started. But the problem is there's not enough of us doing this work. Right? So I had, and it doesn't mean that there isn't people who want to do the work. I literally had, 150 people, I think, registered for this challenge. Right now, there's 9 of you seeing live, and there'll be a lot of others that do the replay. But as you could see, the rest of them want to do it and didn't have enough discipline and courage or whatever to actually show up, watch the replays, and do what they need to do. So the world, everybody has this craving. But you have to decide, and you have to put in a lot of effort and time and energy in order to nurture this craving and nurture the spiritual awakening that you're going through. And only when each and every single one of us does that, will we then have a better world. There is no other way. There's no shortcut there. And this is why I think that this is the most precious work on earth. And I am so blessed and so grateful to be able to do it. And so, okay, we're coming up on time because I really wanted to keep this up 45 minutes, and I'm almost there because I only have one last thing to talk about, which is your homework. Your homework is to sit for 7 minutes with a little paper or a little journal next to you. And as you sit for the 7 minutes, the minute you catch yourself thinking, identify it. Memory, imagination, understanding, maybe processing the events of the day and the conversation we were having just now, or misunderstanding. Can you catch yourself when you are expecting something with a preconceived notion, or whether, you can review your day and say, let's say somebody triggered you and you got upset today for whatever reason. Can you sit in meditation, and as that conversation is playing through your head, can you say, okay, was that really true? Was it that person's intention? Is that really what happened? Or did I perceive it that way because of my own personal blue color glass? We call it the pain body. We deal with that on chapter 5 or section 5 on my 90-day program. And, did you misinterpret what was happening instead of really understanding? So sit for 7 minutes with a little journal, just observe. Do not force the mind to be quiet. Just become the witness of the mind. And when you see it wandering, see, is it going to the past, to a memory? Is it going to the future, to imagination? Is it processing what happened today? Is it processing something that got me triggered? And did I understand that correctly, or did I misunderstand what was happening? So that is your homework for today. Let's see if I have one comment here. Okay, yes. Okay, so I'm glad you got the explanation of what booty was. And yes, we have grandsons, we have children, we have partners, we have coworkers, we have all sorts of people who are constantly interrupting our train of thought. We have our own psyche that sometimes interrupts our train of thought. And, this is why it's helpful to have a clear intention, going back to the 3 things that you need to remember after you finish today. Go back if you haven't set an intention for your challenge. That's super important. We have 3 more days to go. These sessions are intense, they're enlightening, they get you thinking, they shift your level of consciousness. And sometimes the system doesn't like that because it's unknown, like we talked at the beginning. So if you have a clear intention, you'll have a better chance of success in finishing the challenge. The second one is make sure you find an accountability partner. Go back to the thread, and instead of putting yourself on the thread with a request for a partner, go back to the comments and see if you can find and tag somebody and say, I would like to be your buddy. Third one is the workshop, which is this Saturday. It's only $47, how to manifest your heart's desire. And if you can't make it to the workshop and you're interested in chatting with us, then book a call. You can DM me and I'll send you a link to book a call with us, with me or my enrollment team. And we can talk about, how to work together if you're interested. But I really want these sessions to be as enlightening as possible, to reach as many people as possible. It helps me a lot if you share, if you comment, if you like, helps me to reach more people, because yes, I am a mindfulness teacher, and part of the reason that I do these sessions is because if you like what I have to offer, you might want to work with me, and I really appreciate that. But there's no obligation. I just put it out there with all my heart to serve and help and enlighten as many people as possible. And whether you work with me or someone else, it's about feeling inspired and just kind of lighting that fire to set you on your way. And that's my intention with these challenges and these sessions. Okay, so with all of that said, feel free to comment with any questions and I'll be glad to reply. I will post immediately the summary, the replay link, and the homework for today. Again, I am Sarah. I'm a traditional Usui Reiki master teacher, a holistic life coach, and a yoga teacher. My signature program is a 90-day awakening and empowerment program where we go dive deeper into all of this. And if you want to learn more, feel free to contact me. Thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed day. Namaste.